When we're talking about end behavior, we're talking about beyond the arrows, kind of describing what the arrows mean that we see drawn on the graph of our function. We write out end behavior in this form, which said out loud is as x approaches infinity, y approaches something. So we need to figure out what that something is. So for this first graph, as x approaches infinity means as x is getting larger. So moving to the right, if I follow along with my graph, as x gets larger to the right, my graph is pointing down, meaning that y is getting smaller, is getting more and more negative, which means that my y is approaching negative infinity. I can also think about that because my arrow here is in quadrant 4, and in quadrant 4, all of my x values are positive and my y values are negative. So as x approaches positive infinity, y approaches negative infinity. Now we need to look at it going the other way. As x approaches negative infinity, so as we're moving left along our graph, my arrow is pointing up in the positive y direction. So that means as x approaches negative infinity, y approaches positive infinity. Also within this quadrant, quadrant 2, all of my x's are negative, all of my y's are positive. So negative infinity for x, positive infinity for y. Let's look at this second example. In the first example, the end behaviors are different, right? The arrows are pointing in different directions, one up, one down. In this example, the end behavior is the same on both sides. So whether x is approaching negative infinity or positive infinity, I have arrows pointing down for both ends of my polynomial function graph. So that means it's going to be negative infinity for both of these. Again, I can think about the quadrant where that arrow is happening. So this arrow in this quadrant, in quadrant 3, x is negative and y is negative. So as x approaches negative infinity, y will also approach negative infinity.